All right. So I'm not the kind of person to push my luck, but I wanted to talk about a few things that I think will probably, continue a conversation that I've started a while ago. And this is, here it comes, open world, Eagle Bearer, and removing lock content from those activities. Now, before I even jump into this video, I know there are going to be a lot of people who dissent to that opinion, and I understand. But I am a Division One player. I played the Division One from back in the day, so whatever dissent you have, it's not like the Division One has not already accomplished that same thing and done its own thing different from other RPG looter shooters. I have heard the argument that in other MMOs, other RPG looter shooters, that some of the items that you can get are locked behind a specific activity. I understand that pattern, but here's the deal. The Division 2 and the Division franchise is absolutely not like any of these other RPGs, MMOs, or MMORPGs or RPG looter shooters. And this is why I still think, as a content creator and as a Division player, that there is still that thread of the possibility, a small little possibility, that the developers may follow this pattern because of a few things. Now, let's start from number one. This is an Ubisoft game. For those of you who by now haven't still necessarily kind of coined, what Ubisoft is about, they like to make sequels. They'll make sequels of sequels, prequels of the sequels, and prequels after the sequels of the sequels of the sequels. Take case in point, Assassin's Creed, they've made 22 now of them. They've also made and are going to release a 6th Far Cry game. They've made multiple Ghost Recon games. And so even though they may have the mind to follow through with somewhat of a, renewal of a game franchise, I think one of the outliers for them has been Rainbow Six Siege. I can't believe Ubisoft has not dropped another Rainbow Six game. Well, I guess I can, because they went through a lot of financial heckles. Basically, I'm not saying they lost too much money. They did lose some money at the Ghost Recon Breakpoint release, so we didn't see or hear about any of their future projects that they're working on. So we didn't hear anything about any Rainbow Six Quarantine or whatever it is. Now, even potential Splinter Cells, are being talked about, or a potential Splinter Cell game, but they've released multiple Splinter Cell games. And so this is not something that is out of the question for the development team in order to have a Division 3, come into a marketing environment where people are already kind of happy, where the game already feels like everything is great, everything is good. And that is one of the reasons I believe that Ubisoft, or Massive, who is an Ubisoft studio, has that potential to change things up and make it different than any other game out there because of their business model. You see, we always have to evaluate how these video games, work based on how the companies publish their games and based on how they basically, try to leverage and, have their player base enjoy their content. With Ubisoft, it's just a rinse and repeat pattern. With Activision too, I've heard a lot of people say things about Ubisoft, and how they make the same games over and over again, but then no one ever, it's like COD is this sacred cow that you can never talk bad about. Call of Duty, they do the exact same thing. So I see it as, people trying to do what they can to make their companies more successful and entertain their audience, which then brings me back to this talk about exclusive items coming out to the open world. Now, where have we seen this happen before? I remember when I made the very, kind of one of these videos about the open world Eagle Bearer, bring the Eagle Bearer to the open world and all that. Some of you actually went back and corrected me and said the weapon I was actually comparing with the Eagle Bearer, which is kind of a Division 1 version called the Warlord, was actually an exclusive in the incursions for a while. And yes, that is true. I went back and did my research, folks, so thank you all for that correction. But eventually, towards the end of the life of the game, actually even before the end of the life of the game, the developers went ahead and actually put that weapon in the loot pool. Because with RNG and the way things actually work anyways, I don't necessarily agree with the philosophy that something should be locked behind a specific content. If a content is well designed and is actually fun, people would actually play it regardless of what's designed or what's locked in there, if you get what I mean. And many of you might say, but the Division 2 doesn't seem to have that kind of content where we can actually enjoy. Well, I've heard people say Iron Horse is fun. I've heard people say Dark Hours is fun. But I remember as a Division 1 veteran, I enjoyed the incursions. For me, Falcon Lost was fun. So I was ready to grind Falcon Lost over and over again. They made the other incursion, Clear Sky, where we could grind it in 7 to 13 minutes if you're a very honed down team. They also had the one Stolen Signal, which was one of these incursions that had so many interesting mechanics. It really did keep you on your toes. So a lot of the missions that we had from the Division 1 are kind of legacy, designs and the way they've actually put them together. And so I think they had a little bit of interesting, mechanics to them, and it made sense to have them behind that content piece. But even still, the developers took the philosophy that even still, players will be playing these content pieces. There are some players who probably don't want to engage in those, and there are players who probably will not be able to engage in those, but want to also have fun in the game. And this is one of the big things that, you have to balance as a development team, is how do you make a game rewarding, make it challenging, and at the same time have, as many people come along. And I think with the Division 2, I think they went too heavy-handed on the challenging part and very stingy on the rewarding part. And that's why we've had these influxes of players in, players out, and all of the others. But I wanted to entertain this thought because the optimization station, the targeted and very, very, the targeted loot that is also customizable to you. These are two things that have actually been put in the game. I don't see any reason why they probably would not entertain bringing some of these locked items that are behind the raid out to the open world. And it's not like they haven't even done that before. They did it with the other the other gear sets that were in Iron Horse. If you guys remember, Iron Horse did have, Aces. It did have Negotiator's Dilemma. They were all locked. The backpack and chest pieces actually were locked behind the raid. I think all pieces were locked behind the raid for a little bit. And then eventually they said, all right, we're going to put it in the loot pool. So whatever the pattern is, they've shown that pattern is existent from the Division 1. They've actually implemented that in the Division 2. So I know I'm probably going to be reading comments of people saying, I don't believe that these weapons should be let out in the open world. But this is not the kind of game that you can actually compare the Division. You can actually say, well, this game actually should be like all these other games. Well, maybe, but this game doesn't follow their rules. But nonetheless, that doesn't say if you want to get these weapons, don't go try, or whatever. No, by all means, go into the raid if you want to play the raid. And if you don't play the raid and you don't have it, it's just one of those things where I think as a, someone who's really optimistic about this, that they're eventually probably going to release this, down the road. Think about when the Division starts to reach its end of life. Think about when they start giving the farm so that they can sell a Division 3. They'll give you everything you want. And I think that's where we're going to see things going soon. All right, that's it for me. I appreciate you guys' time and audience. Thank you so much for your responses. Thank you for engaging the content. I really enjoy reading you guys' responses, the trolls, the supporters, the dissenters, everyone. I enjoy the feedback because I learned stuff, and it's really a nice interactive platform that we have here on the Gamey Daddy channel. So I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you very much, and I'll see you hopefully in the next video. Peace.